Welcome to Rugby Lives, brought to you by Vodafone's clubs.connected programme in partnership with Scottish Rugby. This week we're at Linlithgow Rugby Club in West Lothian, and we're joined by two greats of the game, Donna Kennedy, who has won more caps for Scotland than any other player, and Matt Scott, who not only won 40 caps for Scotland, but also won the English Premiership with Leicester. This is their Rugby Lives. Welcome to Rugby Lives, Matt and Donna, and welcome to Linlithgow. Incredible.
Well, thanks for having us. Absolutely fantastic club. Great welcome we've had so far.
And it's this is actually the first time we've done this, and what a great club though as well. Like they've got the indoor training facilities out there as well, and like we saw some great rugby there with the youth. Are you guys familiar with Linlithgow?
I am, yes. I grew up in Biggar. Well, I actually was born in Lanark, but I lived in Carnwath. But where I played my first rugby was at Biggar Rugby Club. So I am very familiar about the area. And then laterally I played my rugby in Edinburgh and moved down south. So I know the area. I know Scotland by the veterinary practices. And I know Westport Vets very well, where it was called Westport Vets, so yes.
Yeah, we're basically 15 minutes late starting this because you were saying hello to every dog you've seen, and there's a lot of dogs.
I cannot go past the dog without saying hello and petting them. I do check to make sure they're not aggressive first, though. I tell my children anyway. I tell my children, make sure you check.
So you said you've got to check them for other things then as well, but no. And Matt, you've played here.
Yeah, I'm from Currie, so 20 minutes, half an hour down the road. Definitely remember coming here, playing mini tournaments and having Linlithgow come and play us. So yeah, I think a similar sort of vibe to Currie. We're sort of out with the city, so you have that sort of outsider feel, sort of village community feel, and we sort of feel that at Currie quite strongly, and we feel like that's our superpower. So I have feel like a lot of synergy between the two clubs for sure. And I saw out there that we were both founded in the same year and played each other very early on in the early days, so it's pretty cool.
Because like, you were part of the sort of Currie side when they were kind of going all the way up through the leagues as well. That was when you first started.
Yeah, so I came into the team. We were in the top league. We'd won it once by then in 2006. And I came through 2008, 2009, and we won the league again in 2010. But for such a young club, I guess you're competing with your Watsonians and Galas and Hoyks and Melrose and all these sort of well-established clubs. It was we always felt like we were sort of the underdog, like the small teams. So Currie have won the top league 3 times, I think, since its conception. So yeah, we punch above our weight, and we're in the final next week against Ayr again. So like we've been really consistent over the last decade, 15 years or so, which is a testament to the coaching and all the work that's been done there.
And we're here with Vodafone because they've got this great campaign called clubs.connected, where they're working with the Scottish Rugby to kind of, support all levels of really grassroots rugby. But it's so important. You're actually you're really involved, because a lot of players, they've kind of gone through a system that almost bypassed at times that sort of grassroots, and you're back there as well, because not many people necessarily go back to their club, and you're coaching there as well.
Yeah, I've got a really strong affinity to Currie because, as I said, it's a young club, and I was the first player from that club to go from mini rugby all the way through to full international. We had internationals from the club, but they'd maybe played their youth rugby somewhere else. So I do feel like I owe the club a lot, and it's still baffled. It still amazes me when I say that, because coming through, I mean, I was by no means, a child prodigy coming through the system. I was just a normal kid, like everyone that you saw out there this morning. We were coaching, and so it does amaze me that I was able to go on and achieve what I did. But yeah, I still go down on a Sunday. I've got coaching my son's P1 team, so I'm coaching tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock, so that'll be fun with a hangover after watching all the rugby today. But yeah, I live 5 minutes away, so yeah, can't keep me away.
And Donna, you obviously bypassed the whole mini system because it didn't exist from a girl's point of view, and actually you were quite a late starter because you were like in Highland Games before that. Is that right?
Yeah, so I didn't start playing until I was 19. So it's kind of showing my age. I told Matt what age I was today and he nearly fell over. So I'll take that as a really nice compliment. No, I didn't have the opportunity to touch a rugby ball until I was 19. I come and playing at, I went to school at Biggar, and we did hockey, we did athletics. So I was always sporty, very athletic. So I did what the young farmers did. It's a farming community. So we were doing tug of war. Was one of the biggest games we played. I was touring around the Highland Games, and Biggar Rugby, before it was the Rugby Club, Biggar Young Farmers, we were the tug of war champions, Scottish champions.
There you go.
So when Biggar Rugby decided they were going to set up a women's rugby team, well, who are they going to ask? No, they came and asked us, and thankfully we said yes. Because at that time I had no idea where my rugby career would go.
Yeah.
All I knew is that, I was sporty, athletic, and I just wanted to give sport a chance, because none of my family had played. I grew up watching the Six Nations with my dad, but before that I hadn't touched a rugby ball.
What was your first impression of a rugby club?
I think for me, because I mean, so having been in a team sport, when you're doing hockey and when you're doing athletics, a lot of people think when you're doing some of the disciplines that it's just that simple, but it's not. You're part of a club as well. So for me, it was still having that sort of team ethos round about it. But yeah, it was just that camaraderie, and I just felt like I was at home. Yeah, it just felt right to me. And when I went to my first training session and hit my first player, and that was it. The contact for me was everything. I love my contact. I don't know if you saw it there when we were doing the 2-on-1s. I went straight to the defence. I was right in there. I love the contact side of it as well.
Yeah. A slightly different story to what you told me when we spoke before, because it was also about dancing on tables and drinking. I think you've gone really the athletic route here.
I thought that we're supposed to stay on tour with that. I thought, but yes, it was. It's the same. Hearing Matt talk about Currie Rugby Club, Biggar Rugby Club is very, very similar. The ethos and the culture we've got is it's a family club. It genuinely is, and it is for the community. And the strength that they have and the growth that they've had over the years is phenomenal. And I absolutely had the pleasure of going back for their 50th year anniversary and being their guest speaker, which is like just phenomenal for the journey that I've been on my rugby career. And they had 850 people in that room. 850 people, which is just outstanding for a rugby club. So yeah, I've got strong bonds to my very first rugby club, which is Biggar.
And Matt, your journey to international was pretty quick as well, though, wasn't it? Because you weren't in age grade early doors either. So tell me about that and how you after a handful of games, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's funny, like after school, the way the age system works here, I'd played 2 years of under-18s for Currie, and I was young enough to play a third year of under-18s with my youngest brother's age group. So the start of that season, I said, I'm starting uni, I'm not taking rugby seriously. I'm going to play with my brother's team, which was 2 years below me. So that just kind of shows where my head was at. I wasn't ambitious. I was quite happy to be the big fish in the small pond, being bigger and stronger and faster than everyone. And then it was, we had a game against Livingston Colts a couple hours before the first 15 were playing, like the senior men's team. And we won 140-0 or something. And I must have scored about 8 tries. And the coach, Ali Donaldson, and Greco Graham Hogg, who coached Currie first for years, sort of said, this guy looks good. 2 weeks later was the week of my 18th birthday, I think. And then I made my debut for the first 15 men's team away at Melrose, and we won. And then I just sort of stayed in the senior team from then on, got called up to the Scotland under-19s that year, sort of out of nowhere, then Scotland under-20s. So it just sort of went like that. And then after my second year of uni, I got offered a Glasgow Academy contract, which I turned down because, again, I played Scotland under-20s. I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't enjoy that experience. I was sort of like never starting the games. It was Duncan Weir, I was a 10 back then, so it was Duncan Weir, who's year below us. He was starting ahead of me, and I just sort of thought, this life isn't for me.
What were you going to do instead? Did you have a plan otherwise?
Yeah, I was studying law at university, so I guess I was probably going to go down that route. But thankfully, rugby got me out of that career. So, and then after my third year of uni, I got offered an Edinburgh Academy contract, and I thought, you know what? I'm still not really excited about this, but I'll give it a go, finish off my degree. And that final year of my law degree, I was an academy player with Edinburgh, getting paid minimum wage probably, and changed position to centre at the start of that year. It was the 2011 World Cup year, so a lot of the senior guys were away. got an opportunity at 12, started that year. 6 months later, I made my debut for Scotland in the Six Nations in 2012. I actually played the first game of that season for Currie. We played Gala at home. And then 6 months later, I was playing for Scotland against Ireland at the Aviva in a new position of centre. So I really didn't get a chance to sort of take stock of what was happening. It just went like that. Every week was like the biggest game of my career. And then by the summer, we went on tour to Australia, Fiji, Samoa, beat Australia there for the first time since like 1981. I started all the games, and yeah, I was established for the next few years then. It's just like the starting centre for Scotland. So really, really sort of bizarre journey. And I don't think it could happen now because academy systems are much stronger. There's much more competition around. I guess I was lucky I came through at a time where we didn't have a sort of a rich array of talented backs. Like we were pretty blunt, I would say, in the sort of mid 2000s when I sort of came through. So I guess I was lucky timing wise, but yeah, I guess I just took my opportunity and yeah, that was it.
It's amazing also to beat Australia, and then also even just the travel as well. You've gone from nothing to suddenly you've gone to the Aviva, you've beaten Australia, you've gone to Fiji and Samoa. Just the life experience so quickly for someone who didn't even want to play rugby professionally.
I know, it's even just stupid things like
it's like you've been forced into this. So twist your arm to go to Australia and Fiji and Samoa.
It was more like a self-defense mechanism thing. I didn't want to say this is what I want to do, and I almost just I quite enjoyed being nonchalant about it and be like, oh, I'm not really trying.
Did you not think you weren't confident in your own ability?
I wasn't confident in my own ability, no. I went to Currie High School. We didn't have a rugby team. There was nobody from Currie who I could look up to and say, he's done that journey. He's been in my shoes as a Currie mini and gone on to play for Scotland. So I was going to these age group camps, and there's boys from Merkson Castle, boys from Watson's, boys from Heriots, boys from Shumel. Everyone knew each other, and I was just like the only guy from Currie. So I guess I always felt like I didn't belong there. Then that's just me, and my parents were brilliant. My dad always says you're just as good as these boys. You're better than these boys, but I guess you have to believe it yourself, don't you? Yeah. But that period of my life was crazy because I would be playing, got my first cap for Scotland on the Saturday, then I'd be going into uni on the Monday, and everyone was like, "Oh, what'd you get up to the weekend?" And I'm like, I was like, "Oh, I was yeah."
Did you tell them? Did you say, "No, nothing"?
Oh yeah. I mean, I pretty much wore my cap, I think, around the campus trying to pull girls, but
did it work?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I was probably getting paid, as I said, minimum wage, and you're playing the Six Nations against, all your idols and things like that. You're getting paid 10 times the amount that you're getting paid, and it was just surreal. And then you're flying business class to Australia, and I'm just like, used to eating at the student union and going out getting pints for £1 and stuff, and then you're sitting in a business class lounge and you just think, what's going on here? But it was incredible. I probably peaked at rugby that first year. It was amazing.
Well, this is it. That's your rugby life done.
Yeah, just like stop there.
Just start talking about
It's pain from then on.
When did you start to feel like you fitted in, or when did you start, or did you never?
Yeah, I did. But I think it came really late. I mean, I played in the World Cup for Scotland in 2015. I don't know. I definitely, towards the end of my club career at Leicester, I actually worked a lot with a sports psychologist that we had at Leicester who was incredible, and that really helped me believe in what I was doing and what I brought to the team and things like that. It gave me a lot of clarity on that, so I wish I'd done that earlier. But I mean, I got to the stage, obviously, you're established, you played a lot of test matches, you played a lot of club matches. I just think I maybe struggled when it got to these really big games. I was a really good club player, like we'd have outstanding games for Edinburgh, but was inconsistent for Scotland, I'd say. And that's why I didn't get as many caps as maybe my ability sort of I could have got, I'd say, if I believed in myself and I focused my attention in certain areas. But you learn from that.
Who are the players that helped you in there? Like, you said you felt like you were from the outside a little bit. Were there certain individuals within it who kind of helped you get on board?
Yeah, I had really good role models when I first came through. Like me and Greg Laidlaw sort of came into the Scotland team at the same time, even though he was a bit older than me. he had to graft to really get his first opportunity in his mid-20s, because he had Mike Blair ahead of him, Chris Custer, he had Rory Lawson, really good scrum halves for the national team. So Greg was sort of the epitome of just sort of getting your head down, work hard, and wait for your opportunity. And when he got it, he just stayed in the team, and he stayed in the team consistently. And that's the hardest thing to do. You can break into a team, but it's the work and the consistency to actually stay at that level, because there's always new guys coming through trying to knock you off your perch. And I had guys like Greg, Ross Ford, Chris Patterson, who were Nick DeLuca, who were brilliant role models for me. And then later on in my career, playing with the likes of Ben Youngs, Richard Wigglesworth, Hundrey Pollard, guys who won World Cups, Six Nations, Centurion, Test Cap Internationals, just to see how they operate and the mindset required to like stay at that level. Like, it was just incredible. So I've had a lot of really good role models for sure.
It's an incredible journey. Like, you obviously started nine. Donna, you as well, but 5 World Cups, 115 caps, Scotland's most capped player. Everyone, can we have a round of applause for that? I just think that's, and I think it's a record that's still holding for a while. Is there anyone close to you that's still playing anyway?
I hate it when I get introduced as that, because that is going to get broken at some point. So I'm surprised it's not been broken before.
We've got to do it now. That's why we're doing it now. Get this everywhere.
Yeah, I think from a female perspective, it would be Lana Skeldon. I think Lana's sitting on about 85 caps. And from a male perspective, it's Ross Ford, isn't it? He's 113 caps. Yeah.
But this incredible journey you've been on, your first cap was the first ever capped women's Scottish international. So this wasn't even a dream that could possibly exist. It was literally the most, it was a dream, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea of what my career held in front of me, because going back to listen to you speak there, I had no role models growing up from a rugby perspective. My role models were all in different sports, so I had no one's shoes to follow in. So for me, it was about, I just enjoyed rugby. We had an opportunity at the time. We were looking to set up a Scottish women's rugby team. I was fortunate enough to get invited along to the first trial.
What did that look like? Paint the picture of what this is like, because right now women's rugby is an incredible place. We've just had a World Cup with sellout finals, and the Scotland game that's coming up has sold 26,000 tickets. But paint what that very first meeting was like.
Yeah, but I mean, it was very sort of, it was all in the Edinburgh area, because it was the universities that were playing. So there was very few clubs outside of that central belt that was actually playing rugby. So you had Edinburgh Accies is probably the biggest team that had a lot of players in there. And there was just myself from Biggar at that time. So, and there was the university side of it. But I mean, it was probably, if I remember right, I think there's about 30 of us that turned up for that first trial. And then we had to go across the border to get our first game. So we had to play against the English select. So it was a Scottish select against English select. And I remember playing in Newcastle on our very first game, and we had these old cotton, what can I describe it as, like a bloody nightshirt that we had to wear. I mean, I'm not sure, it was massive. We had to wear it was the cut off in the men's, because you would expect that, because there was no women's shaped jerseys at that time. I remember the old drawstring shorts that you wear. We had black ones, or you could wear the white ones with the pockets and the button. I remember that.
They're still the greatest rugby shorts, though.
Oh, well, I think I've still got a pair in my garage somewhere, right enough. But they were the shortest shorts you can imagine. As a female, they were right up your chuff. So you're half the time you're running along trying to get your shorts out your backside. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was rough and ready. It literally was rough and ready, because the coaching team there was at the time, it was Mark Francis was our very first coach, and Roddy Stevenson, who I believe was at Watsonians College as well. So I mean, we didn't know how it was going to take us, but what we did know is that we enjoyed playing rugby, and we definitely wanted to get a women's side started and get Scottish women's rugby on the map. And that was the very first game against Ireland. I remember it well. It was the 14th of February at Rayburn Place, and we won 10-0. I think it was, we won.
Was there crowds there? Was there different people there? How many? Was it just one man and his dog, which would have been suited you if there were more dogs?
So no, we actually, there was more dogs on that day as well, but there was more people. Yeah. So actually, we actually had a very good crowd, because there was a lot of good publicity around about it, because it was the very first women's international. And I remember as well, I mean, Edinburgh Accies has now changed. If you've been across to the Edinburgh Accies ground, I mean, it's partly it's unrecognisable, but there was the old wall, the old sheds where the first team pitch was on the far side. And I just remember there was people sitting on the sheds, people sitting on the wall all the way around. And there was no space on the pitch. And I think there was about 4,500 people there that day.
Oh, wow. That's
So
incredible.
it was absolutely fantastic for the first game, but nobody turned up afterwards. But hey-ho. They are now, hopefully. Get yourself to Murrayfield, make sure. For this Scotland-England game, get yourself there.
And then into the World Cup as well, which was originally going to be hosted by Netherlands. This would have been a year or so later, wasn't it?
Yeah. So in 1994 was the very first Women's World Cup. It was the Netherlands, but it was money. Due to money, they pulled out. And it was Sue Brodie at the time, who was a player for Scotland, decided, well, this can't happen. We need to make sure that we get this going. So Sue just worked her magic and pulled in favours after favours. We got some companies on board, and cut a long story short, Scotland held the very first that World Cup, 1994 here.
Amazing. Did it feel like it could build to something? Did you feel like when did you start to feel that women's rugby was going somewhere?
I think it was definitely after that World Cup, because we played down at Burmuir. That was where most of our games were, and the final was held down at Rayburn Place. But we had a lot of coverage at that point. There was a lot of spectators coming along. But the problem for us was the participation in the game. So there wasn't many women playing rugby at that time. So it's the growth of the game at that time was the big challenge that we had, because I went from 1993 through to 2010. That's 17 years of beating my body up, and I can hardly get out of my bed in the mornings now. But it's it's a long time.
Also, you changed position, didn't you? You have been in the back row, and then you ended up as far away from the back row as you could get.
Listen, I was a fat knacker when I started. Honestly, I was. They put me. They said, right, where we're going to play her, because I used to be really fast. I did, honestly, because I did a lot of athletics. And then as you do in your teenage years, I was smoking fags. I would go out and drink the beers, and that's when I was dancing on the tables in the rugby club.
See, this is where it comes out.
That's where it happens. And then suddenly I think, well, I'm actually quite good at this, and I really enjoy it. So it wasn't till they stuck me in the second row, and I then turned around and said to my coach, and I said, what do I need to do to get out in that back row? Because that's where I want to play. He said, well, you need to lose weight and get faster. So I did. And that's exactly what I did. So in that time, then the strength and conditioning were starting to come in. The skill set was getting higher. Because at the time when I played, you couldn't lift in the line out. You weren't allowed to lift in the line out. You could rock the shit out of people. You could absolutely get your feet on. And I remember being in the showers, and oh my God, the amount of ruck marks you would have on your back, and just, but obviously now you can't touch someone though. You're not allowed to do it. But back in the day, the changes of the laws, you had to evolve with all those changes that were going on. But yeah, I just think the biggest challenge we definitely had at that point was that participation. But it grew, and you just suddenly thought, right, we've got something here. And then when at the time it was the SRU stepped in, because it was the Scottish Women's Rugby Union we had, so with two separate unions, so it wasn't a joint union. So at that time the SRU stepped in. And then that's when it started to take a bit of traction after that.
You played on the wing there as well, didn't you, for Scotland?
I played second row, back row. See, this is what happens. You get to my age. I went off piece there. Did you see that? You were asking about the position.
Oh, I was talking about the wing story, but that's another one.
When you get to 54 and the menopause kicks in, ladies, this is what happens to you, because you forget what's been asked of you. Yeah. So yes, So I went from second row, back row, and then because I got fast, they said to me, "You get fast," so I did, and I got 4 caps in the wing as well. So, which I hated.
That was because you got fast, not because there was injuries.
I was fast. I was big. I was aggressive. That was the way I played my rugby. Yeah.
And Matt, were you aware of the women's rugby? Was it close? Was there like connections when you were playing for Scotland with the women as well? And were you involved at all?
Not really, to be honest. And yeah, I'm ashamed to say now, as a father of a daughter, that I didn't pay too much attention. I'm just being honest. So, but now I was saying to Donna earlier, it's fantastic how women's sport in general is growing. And obviously, when you have a daughter, you look more closely at these things, and I'm just like, wow, like the world's your oyster, not just for for sport, but for everything else in life. So very lucky to be a young girl in this moment in time.
This episode has been brought to you by Vodafone's clubs.connected programme in partnership with Scottish Rugby. Clubs.connected is offering Scottish Rugby clubs free of charge connectivity for 12 months. Savings and offers on mobile and broadband for your club members and sponsors, and the chance to win experiences, stash and match tickets. To find out more, visit scottishrugby.org. And you played in the Rugby World Cup as well, 2015. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it was in England. Obviously, an incredible experience. We played Japan first at Kingsholm, Gloucester. We arrived down in the Cotswolds, stayed at a hotel. We watched Japan v South Africa in the first game, and obviously Japan had that incredible, famous victory down in Brighton. So that really sharpened the mind for our game on the Tuesday. But I think Japan played South Africa on the Saturday. We had them on the Tuesday. They were just spent. So we hammered them, beat the USA, and then lost to South Africa at St James's Park in Newcastle, and then we had to beat Samoa at St James's Park to qualify for the quarterfinals, which we did. So I started all those games apart from the USA game. I came off the bench, and then it was a quarterfinal against Australia at Twickenham. Unfortunately, I'd injured my back, and I went and got an injection in my back in the week, and I just couldn't make the team for the quarterfinal. So that was obviously incredibly heartbreaking to miss out on that game. And genuinely, I'm sure everyone remembers, we got absolutely robbed by Craig Joubert, the ref, and lost that game in the last minute to set up a potential semi-final with Argentina, who we'd beaten regularly over the couple of years previous to that. So I think we had an incredible chance to make a World Cup final that year, but just wasn't to be.
Was that one of the toughest moments, getting that injury in your...
It was really tough, incredibly tough, and I remember going to a clinic in Guildford, and this guy was like, "Are you sure you want all these injections?" I got like 3 or 4 local anesthetics like in my back, and I was just like, I just want a chance. Yeah, I just want a chance to be fit. Yeah, it is, and I probably thought at that age I'll maybe have another shot at it at World Cup, and I didn't. That was my only World Cup, so yeah, looking back now, it's a bit heartbreaking, but that's sport. You get some luck in other aspects, and some other things you're unlucky. That's just the way it is.
And you were at Edinburgh 3 times. You kept coming back to us. Like, there's clearly something there. But the first time you went away, you went to one of the most vociferously supported clubs in England, in Gloucester. What was that? Was that like a big experience for you to actually leave? And why did you leave?
It was huge. I was a bit of a home bird growing up. Went to uni, Edinburgh Uni, stayed at home while I was at uni. So I'd never actually lived away from Edinburgh before. But after that World Cup, the way Edinburgh were going as a club, the style of rugby we were playing, I just really wanted a new experience. I don't know why. I just had this itch to, got a short career, let's go and explore somewhere. So I've always been desperate to play in France. I never quite got out there, but Gloucester came in quite early with a really good offer, really, great opportunity. They had a really good team at the time. Greg Laidlaw was down there. They had guys like Richard Hibbard, James Hook, Johnny May, Billy 12 Trees. So yeah, myself and my now wife, we went down and had a brilliant 2 years down there. Just first time living away from home, making new friends, meeting people from the other side of the world. They sort of become your family when you're in that sort of situation. And we just had a blast living in Cheltenham. So really good fun. That was the days of pre-kids, so we actually had a social life, so it was good. Really enjoyed it, and brilliant club. I mean, poor Gloucester fans, I mean, they've not had much silverware to cheer over the last couple of decades, but support is fantastic. Kingsholm on a Friday night is one of the best places you can ever go to watch rugby. Lovely people, and yeah, just my first experience of playing in the Premiership, which is just such a good league. It's just great fun.
What kept bringing you back? What was it? Was it always because of Scotland? Like, you felt it will be better if I'm in the shop window.
Yeah. Basically, I think it was Gregor who had just taken over as coach at that time, and he sort of said, "Look, it'd be good if you were back in Edinburgh. You would have more of a chance." He quite liked picking guys with combinations and things like that who played for their clubs regularly. So, yeah, and basically when you're a capped international unless you're playing in your home country, you're classed as a foreign player, and clubs in England, clubs in France don't get funding from their unions to have you on their books because you're a foreign player. You've got no chance of playing for the national team. So it's always harder to get contracts out with your country if you have been capped. That's why it's because I've seen guys get 1 or 2 caps for Scotland and then they struggle to get club contracts. So it's almost like, sounds horrible to say, but you really have to think hard for a career move. Should I take this opportunity to play Scotland A or Scotland Sevens or Scotland's national team, because it might hurt my chances of getting a contract in England or a contract in France? And it's a horrible sort of dilemma I've seen some guys go into, because I've seen guys get 1 cap and then clubs go, sorry, we just can't afford to keep you on because we don't get funding from the RFU or whatever. So
it seems to be going a little bit more that way as well. Central contracts down in England as well. So I think that's always going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
And you know, again, you were progressing all the way through, but Scotland, you won a Grand Slam. So that's incredible. What was that like, and how much did that progress from the World Cup?
Yeah, so it was still the Five Nations at that time. So it was 1998. I remember it well. And it was a game against England. It was the first time we'd actually beaten England. So it was a double whammy, getting the Grand Slam and beating England.
Which seems impossible now, doesn't it? At this point, you know, when you look at it.
Yeah, I mean, we've still got a gap. There's no doubt about it. You know, if you look at some of the performances, if you watch the World Cup, the recent World Cup, it was there. I mean, England are the top team. There's no doubt about it. But there's reasons for that. You know, they've got one of the best domestic leagues in the world, not just in this country, but in the world, because you have players coming from all over the world to play in it. And that has always been the issue, you know, for us, not just us, for Wales and for Ireland as well, you know. So as a home nation, you're competing against a bigger population of players, the infrastructure that you have with that FU, and they're always ahead. They've always been ahead of us. We've always been playing catch up, but the gap is narrowing. The gap is definitely narrowing. It's going to still take a bit of time to really catch up, but I know that we're obviously trying to bridge that gap with the Celtic leagues that we've got in here now, with the SR, but also, you know, Ireland or Wales are trying to bridge that gap as well. So England are there to be beaten, but it's going to take some side to beat them at the moment. I think we're at least still another 5 years off, and that's my personal opinion.
I think Scotland showed a lot of progress at the World Cup. I thought, you know, across the board, when you looked at some of the other sides, I thought, you know, there's a lot of talent there as well, and they seem to get some of their combinations right. So I thought it was a good World Cup.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was Scotland finished where they should have finished. There's no doubt about it. I mean, it was a huge ask to get them to beat England to go through to quarters. You know, it was just a massive task. But they showed up and they played well. But the games they played before that, you know, they put in performances, and that's what you want, because not every team can win. You can't win every game. That's the nature of sport. But as long as you're putting in a performance and the infrastructure that sits behind that is there to help you push on, then you can start to make a difference.
Did you start to see that the last 82 years we've had and the massive progression? It feels like the trajectory has really gone with that. Is that something you saw coming? And I think it's also this appreciation for it being a different product. Almost, we're not trying to compare men's and women's rugby, and everyone's lent into that.
Yeah, and I think the biggest bugbear I have as a rugby player is having that comparison to a male rugby player. You know, it's obvious I'm female. The clue's in the name. You know, we play women's rugby. It is a different product out there. You know, but it's in its own right. It's the game, the skill set's different. The strength of the players are different. But if you looked at some of the when I started playing, you know, the game was different. It was very forward orientated. You know, it really was. But the progression that we had through the years, obviously the law changes, the fitness. I said earlier when I started, I was a fat knacker. But once I got the bite and wanted to play, look at the career I had, you know, but I had the structure behind me to help me to do that as well. But the structure has now changed to help people push on, because the professional era demands it. You can't compete at that level unless you're putting the work in behind the scenes, and you've got that whole ecosystem round about you to help you to support doing it. But for me in my time, the game just changes, but you've got to evolve with the game as well.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, women's rugby has to embrace how unique it is, and yeah, celebrate the differences to men's rugby. I was speaking to Brian Eason, who is the Scotland women's coach at the last World Cup, and he just said it's incredible the difference between managing a group of women and a group of men, just in terms of like even the bus and the way to the game. He said it's just the loudest thing you've ever heard with the women. It's like music, the girls are all screaming, and you know, they're just that, like, that's how they prepare for a game. Whereas a bus on the way to a men's game is just silence. Everyone's got their headphones in, everyone's this, and he said it's such a different, but it's amazing, and you just got to celebrate the differences and promote on social media. A lot of the girls are brilliant at just showing how unique they are, and yes, that might not happen in the men's game, but so what?
Yeah, but it's interesting to hear you saying that, because when I played, I wasn't screaming on the bus or anything like that.
Yeah.
For me, you know, I prepared well. I was very much, I needed my space round about me. I couldn't. Everybody knew that, you know, if my socks weren't in the right place, I'd have a wee bit of a tiz to myself. I had to prepare really hard. So everybody prepares in their own way. But yes, as a female, you will deal with things differently, yeah. But performances is the same. You'll just prepare in a different way. But for me, when I see some of the players now, wouldn't have been the way that I would do it, and vice versa. You see some of the men.
Definitely.
I had so I don't know if my wife is the England team doctor. So yeah, so that was an interesting situation. I went back to the England team hotel after Scotland beat them with my 2 kids. And after each game, they allow partners to come in, and you stay the night in the hotel, and it's a really nice environment to be in. But I rocked up in my tartan jacket, so it was quite nice, and I rocked up for that.
On the England budget as well. That's what they're paying for your ticket.
Oh yeah, I made sure that was But I've gone off track. What was I going to say there? See, this is me again with the menopause.
I think it's like a generational thing as well, because even towards the end of my career, the young boys coming through in the academy.
Oh, I was talking about Paul.
Yeah, and they are different. They are different, and they have to be managed differently. And whereas I sort of came into a team very much that hierarchical structure where, you know, you're an academy boy, you're getting, you know, told to do this, that, and the other. Whereas now, it's very much inclusive. Everyone's got a voice. Everyone is, right, you're 19 years old, but if we're asking you to make decisions on the pitch, if we're asking you to be a voice on the pitch, we can't suppress your voice, you know, off the pitch because you're young. So yeah, it's just different now.
Yeah, but they allow it, and that's sorry, I went off piece there again, but that's where I was going with that. That they are allowed to be themselves, because you can see he's true to him. You talk about Pollock, he's true to himself. What you see off the pitch, and that is how he is. That's how he is. And you've got to allow players to be themselves. And I think a lot of the times, if there's certain environments that you find yourself in, if coaches don't allow you to do that, you're not going to get the best out of your players, full stop. It doesn't mean to say at the high level either. This is even at grassroots. You have to allow young players, any player, to flourish and support them through.
And just want to go back to you, man. Obviously, you went to Leicester and you won the Prem title there. How different was that environment? Because actually, you also played under Steve Borthwick and Gregor Townsend as well. So tell me about Leicester and then the difference in styles there.
Yeah, complete chalk and cheese. And it's so interesting how this Six Nations has gone, because Steve was up here, Gregor was down here, and it's just sort of flipped reverse, hasn't it? Gregor's always been attack the space, very positive rugby. But I joined Leicester the same time Steve joined. It was his first head coach job in rugby, having been assistant coach with England. And he sort of called me up. It was during COVID. I didn't have a contract. My wife was pregnant with her first child at that point, and it was really nerve-wracking time, because I didn't know what the financial situation was going to be with clubs, etc. But Steve phoned me and said, "Look, we really want to bring you down. I've got a 3-year plan to win the Premiership within 3 years. This is how we're going to do it." And I sort of thought, yeah, like I've heard this spiel from every coach I've ever had, you know, like we're going to turn things around, this, that, and the other. But within 2 years, we'd won the title, and he sort of delivered on everything that he was going to say. And just to be in that process from the very beginning, where he was casting out dead wood or players and staff that he didn't think bought in with his vision, we recruited really well. He was a sort of Moneyball sort of coach, where you'd pay analysts to find sort of hidden gems from across the world, and we signed a guy, Jasper Visa, who now starts every week for South Africa, number 8. We sort of plucked him from sort of nowhere in South Africa. Harry Potter, Guy Porter, Carrie's starting for Australia now every week. Like, these were just random uni students in Sydney. And yeah, he just built this culture, and yeah, we went on to win the league in that second year, and it was just a phenomenal experience, and to work with coaches like that. So it was just a real privilege. But to see what's going on with England at the moment, in comparison to Scotland, it's just so fascinating. I think, yeah, it's really interesting.
And you actually you had quite a hiatus, didn't you? Was it 4 years between your 39th and 40th cap? Did you think you'd play for Scotland again? Were you just thinking you're off radar?
Yeah, Gregor never really, it's one of those things, like, if you have a coach that backs you and believes in you, you can, you're fine. Me and Gregor just never didn't get on or anything. He just thought I wasn't the type of centre that he wanted. So I started for him in his first ever game as Scotland coach, and starting I was on the bench for the second game. We beat Italy away in Singapore, then we beat Australia again. I've got a good record against Australia for some reason. And then I didn't get a cap for, just about 4 years. It was only in that title winning season at Leicester I was playing really well and got back into the team for one cap. Played me against the world champions and we lost, and then he said, right, that's your chance.
Actually done.
Yeah, but that was actually really special because my son had been born at that time. He'd obviously never seen me play for Scotland before. It was at home. I had my whole family there, and there was a part of me that was like, this might be the last one. Like, I was 31, 32. I knew Gregor was really, Sione had just come in.
Yeah.
He was getting his first cap around that time as well, and I just sort of felt this might be it. So I really just enjoyed that week, enjoyed playing against the world champions, enjoyed playing in front of my son for the first time at Murrayfield. Just really soaked it all in. So I'm really glad I got that chance to do that one more time.
Oh, you've had a great career. I mean, it feels like you were quite down on yourself at the beginning, but like, you won 40 caps, you went to a World Cup.
Yeah.
You've beaten Australia a couple of times. There's a lot of Scottish players that haven't done that, and you won a Prem Rugby title as well. So you've had a great, and you did it coming. You were a game changer from Currie. So I think you need to give yourself a lot more credit, because that's an incredible career.
Well, thank you. I think it's just being an athlete, being a sports person, you always want more, don't you? And but totally, from the wee boy at Currie who had no confidence in himself to gone, I used to look around the changing room at Leicester and think, how am I here? Like, I was looking at some of the guys, like the best players in the world. George Ford, Ben Youngs to my right. You got like Jasper Visa, Dan Cole, Freddie Stewards, Julian Montoya, like all these guys. I was like, how am I here? So yeah, from that wee boy from Currie, it was awesome. Like, it just really special. But yeah. Oh, you always want a bit more.
I mean, you are sat next to Donna, who's got statues. So no one has a statue. Donna, tell me about your statue. Where is your statue?
I still think it's at Murrayfield. Yeah. I think it's still there. I put
But also, you're in World Rugby Hall of Fame, and you were, I think it was IRB back then, IRB International Personality of the Year. What an incredible career! What are the things that look at? What were the pinch me moments from this career?
I go back to 1998. I think for me, it's winning that Grand Slam. It was such a special, momentous moment for us, and just the group of players that I was playing with during that time. We'd gone from 1993 through to that time, so it was a tight knit group, and I mean, we went through several coaches as well. So you never know, as you're talking about coaches, you've got to be in favour with your coach. So we had, I think, even Chubb is here. Ian was one of my coaches from here at Linlithgow. Your director of rugby. He coached me at one time. So you've got to make sure that you're on your game. But yeah, the favourite moment for me would definitely be 1998, and then probably going through to, weirdly enough, my last World Cup 2010. Just know I was 38 at that time. Knowing that it was time to go. I tried to go in 2006 after the 2006 World Cup. I took a year out, and I moved down south in 2005 because I wanted to play more competitive rugby, because I knew the 2006 World Cup was coming up in Canada, and I thought that was going to be my swan song, because a lot of the other players were going to retire at that time as well. But I was still playing competitive club rugby down at Worcester. And when you're playing at that level and you still feel like you can give something, and then when the Scotland coach come back to you and said, look, is there any chance you can come back? Because, you know, because just giving that sort of experience back to the side. So I did, but the deal was I had to stay for another 2 seasons and stay into that 2010 World Cup. So to finish there at a World Cup with a new group of players coming through, knowing that Scottish rugby was going to be in a better place for the women's game, but still knowing we still had a way to go. But during my time, you've got to remember, going back, you're talking about flying bloody business class. Jesus Christ, we had to pay for our shirts. You know, it's like, we had to beg, steal and borrow. I remember I was going to the local business people around about Biggar trying to get 50 quid here and there to support us, you know, to play. So my journey as a women rugby player, female rugby player, is completely different to the men in my day. But now that has definitely changed. There's no doubt about it. And it gives me to be still here and see the structures that have been put in, the pathways that are there, and the opportunities that are there. Because I've got a daughter who's 8, and I would love to see her at one time. She's got a choice. She could play for England, she could play for Wales, or play for Scotland if she decided that's what she wanted to do. I'd love knowing that she's got the opportunity that she can definitely do that. I didn't have that opportunity in those days. So I didn't have any pathways. But
who does she support?
She supports Scotland, actually. Yeah. My son definitely supports England. There's no doubt about it. But I got them Scottish names. So I married an English woman who played for England. I got 32 caps. But my son's name is Rory, and my daughter's name is Ailey. So there you go. I went on the naming of the kids.
It's great also seeing you guys interact today with all the players and stuff. You're like, really love this grassroots. I mean, I love this place also because they've got interactive league tables right behind me. That is the best thing. I don't think I've seen that since like 1990s football magazines where you're flipping it over, but I love this. And I don't know what, I mean, I'm guessing this side don't play anymore, which is why they're so far away, or are they really far adrift? They pulled out the league. So, but how good is it seeing also it's both sides as well? Because I think there's often some negativity about grassroots rugby and the decline, but you come to clubs like this and see thriving sections and night across, and it's in both sides as well, men and women. How great is that?
It's amazing. I think we've obviously had a policy over the last decade or so in Scotland to broaden the player base and search far and wide for Scottish qualified players, but I think we forget there's so much talent in Scotland. Guys like your Darcy Grahams, your Finn Russells, you know, they're just normal kids like we all were in their mini sections, just love playing rugby, and there's gems everywhere. There will be gems everywhere. So this is where the heart of the Scotland team should come from.
And it's a great initiative. And just to wrap things up, you know, it's very easy when we've got Vodafone mics in front of you to say nice things, but I think actually the role of the brands and Vodafone in particular, when it comes to women's rugby, they played a huge role. And sort of now they're kind of going into the grassroots space across the board. So there's naturally, everyone's got brilliant internet here and connectivity. I'm not sure they're going to change this, and I don't think they should. So I think connectivity should stop there. But just on that, I just want to say huge thanks firstly to Linlithgow Rugby Club for hosting us tonight. And Ken and Jean, who've been running things, they've been excellent. Ken's been walking around in a high vis all day, so you can't see him, but excellent job, Ken. And I just want to say a huge thanks to you guys. Great stories, great ambassadors of rugby across the board. Your passion, you know, it's great to have people here. You're not just sort of, you know, paying an empty tribute to grassroots rugby. You really love it, but you also live it in the way you've done and the way you've been incredible examples for the club and the game. So just to be clear, have a huge round of applause for our guests, please. Thank you very much, everyone. This has been Rugby Lives with Vodafone. Thank you.